Hey girls, if you remember, I am in a city called Washington, D.C. Now, Washington, D.C. is one of Daddy's favorite cities in the whole world, actually, because there's two really important things in this city. One is that it is the main place, the main city in our country, United States of America, where important decisions are made and ideas are put into action. The second reason why Daddy loves this city so much is because there are so many things you can learn while you're in this city. If you are really into science, there's a science museum. If you're into space, there's a space museum. If you're into art, there's an art museum. There's a museum for almost everything in this city. And so I just love coming to this city of Washington, D.C. So let me tell you two things. One, the reason why Washington, D.C. is so important to our country is because it is the capital city of the United States of America. Can you say that? What type of city is it? The capital city. Now, if you remember, we live in the city of what? Phoenix, right? We live in the city of Phoenix. That's the neighborhoods all around that we drive around. That's the city of Phoenix. But the city of Phoenix is in the state of, do you know it? Arizona. And Arizona is all the land that's all around the city of Phoenix. And we go up, remember a couple times we drove for a really long time and we found snow and we found the Slide Rock, right? Where we played in the water, in the rocks. That's all still in the state of Arizona. So we live in the city of Phoenix, in the state of Arizona, but what country do we live in? The United States of America. America. That's the country we live in. And the country is big. And the country includes other states. And if we live in Arizona, where does Grandma live? Michigan. And where does Papa and sometimes Nana live? In Minnesota. And where does Uncle Ben live? In Oregon. That's right. Those are all states in the country of the United States of America. So it goes city, state, country. Now, the main city for the whole country is this one right here, Washington, D.C. That is the capital city of the United States of America. And so I love this city. There's so much to learn. I learn something new every time. And over the next couple days, I'm gonna try my hardest to show you some of the cool things in this city, okay? It's the capital city, right? It's the main city where a bunch of our leaders, the people who help make the biggest decisions about the country, they all work here in Washington, D.C. Now, a couple things I wanna share with you about. First, the name Washington, D.C. Do you know why it's called Washington? That's because our first president of the United States of America was named George Washington. Now, what is a president? I think we talked about this the other day. A president, the president of the United States of America, is the leader, is the main leader of our country. And he has certain, he has choices that only he can make. You know how sometimes at home, there's some choices that only mommy and daddy can make, right? But there's other choices that you two can make, right? Well, there are some choices in this country that only the President of the United States of America can make. And the way that someone becomes a president is everyone who lives in the United States of America. All the people that live in Arizona, like myself and mommy, actually only the adults, that is. All the people in Michigan, where grandma lives, all the people in Minnesota, where papa lives, all the people in Oregon, where Uncle Ben lives. All those adults get to pick the person that they want to be president. And so that's how you become president. And the first president of the United States of America was a guy named George, what was it again? George Washington. And so they named the capital city after him, Washington, D.C. Now, one of the things that was a long time ago, many years ago, long time. And one of the things that we have done in Washington, D.C. is we've created what they call a monument to help us remember who he was, what he believed, and the decisions that he made, because they're really important decisions that even impact, they have an effect on our lives today. So a monument is something, some sort of building, or maybe a sculpture, or something that helps us remember a person or an event, or an idea. And so they made a monument for George Washington. And that is called the Washington Monument. And this is it. Whoa! You see that? I am right under it, and it's super tall. Whoa. See that? That's called the Washington Monument. You probably saw it yesterday in our in the video, right? So the Washington Monument helps us remember all the important decisions that were really good, and some of them that weren't so good, that impact us today. Whoa, it's a bit of a lightning storm happening over here. Crazy. Well, anyways, there's other monuments and other memorials. Does the same thing. A memorial is also a building or some piece of art that helps us remember an event or a person that was important to us. And so I'm going to show you a few more memorials and monuments. This is your homework assignment. I know this one for real. You can go into the coin jar. You know that coin jar that you got money for when you were at VBS? And you look for a coin that has that building on it. Okay? Okay. I love you. Okay. Hey girls. Whoa. Zoomed in a little too much, huh? How's it going? So, right now, I am standing in front of, or kind of a long ways away from, the place where the president lives. Now, remember, we talked about the president of the United States of America and how that is kind of the main leader. There's certain decisions in the country that only the president can make. Well, there's a special place when that person is president. It's only for a little bit of time. Sometimes it's a long time. Sometimes it's longer than we want it to be. But there's a special place where that president and his or her family can stay while they are the president of the United States. And that is in that house right there. Now, what do you think that house is? What do you think that name is of that house? You know what? It's actually pretty simple. They named it after the color of the house. So if they named it after the color of the house, what color house would that be? That's right, white. They call it the White House. The White House is where the President of the United States of America lives. Okay. I just wanted to show you that. It's a very famous building that many people know about. And now you know why they talk about the White House. The White House is the home of the President of the United States of America. And someday, one of you two might live there. Would you want to live in that house? Okay, well, if you do, you'll have to be really good at school and you'll have to care about people a lot, because that's the type of person that should be in that house. Okay? All right, love you, girls. Hey, girls. All right, so this is another one of those memorials or monuments that I was talking about. This one is called the World War II Memorial. Now, do you know what a war is? That might be I have a long answer for that. So let me just tell you a little bit about what a war is in case you don't know. A war is a giant fight, usually between countries, all right? We live in the country of the United States of America, and a war would be with maybe another country, like some of the other countries that we've learned about or talked about. And wars are not good. They are not what anybody wants, okay? Now, sometimes people believe that wars are necessary, big fights, but the problem with wars is that these fights, they mean that people are killed, that people die, and that's a really sad thing. Do you know what the opposite of war is, or what the opposite of fighting is? Do you know the word? It's called peace. Peace is the opposite of war or of fighting. And peace is something that Jesus talks a lot about, that we should try to have as much peace as possible. The way we do that is by loving one another, right? By caring about one another. Even if we might not always understand or even always agree, we should always love one another and make sure that we pursue peace, because that's what Jesus wants to be about, okay? So, but these memorials to different wars are not necessarily to mean that we're happy that the wars happened. But the wars did happen, and many people died. And we want to make sure that we remember the reasons for why they died. And that's usually because they wanted to bring about peace. They wanted to make sure that we had peace, you and me, that later, when people would live after them, that they would be able to live and be able to make their own choices and have freedom and all those good things. And we'll learn more about that. It's a very complicated thing. But this one is the World War II Memorial, okay? You see it's got beautiful fountains and pillars, because we want to celebrate the reasons why people gave their lives for causes of freedom and liberty. So, war should be avoided. We should try to not make that choice as much as possible. But peace, we should always try to choose peace if we can, right? Just like when Addie, you and your sister aren't getting along, you guys are fighting, what does mommy and daddy ask? We ask that you guys try to figure it out, right? You try to make peace and get along and then love one another. Not to keep fighting. That's not good. Same thing. Gotta love peace, okay? Love you, girls. Girls, if you look very closely, you see lightning bugs. See little things flashing? Whoa, you see them? They just flash a little bit and they go away. Isn't there a book you have that talks about that? Ferenzi's Light. Whoa, bunch of fireflies. Hey girls, this is another memorial to a different war. This one's called the Vietnam War Memorial. And one of the things that makes this one really important, and it makes us remember this war and everything that it was fought, why it was fought for, is because this black wall is the memorial. See that black wall? It goes all the way. And if you look closely, there's actually the names There's names all along, all the way down the wall. And those names, each one of those names is someone that died while fighting that war. So isn't it amazing that someone would actually risk their life for something they believe in? That's what we're trying to celebrate with different war memorials like this. Brave people were really brave that decided that it was okay if they died fighting for something they believed in. All right, girls, we have finally made it to my favorite part of Washington, D.C., and that is yet another monument. This one is called the Lincoln Monument, okay? Now, it's called the Lincoln Monument, or Lincoln Memorial, it's one of the two, because it's named after yet another president, and that was President Abraham Lincoln. And this is it. Ta-da! And the guy inside, you can see all the way in there. It's a statue, it's not real. It's a stone statue of the man Abraham Lincoln, who was our 16th United States president. And the reason why Lincoln is so special is that he led the United States of America, our country, through a really difficult time. It was a time where there was a lot of fighting even inside of the United States and people not agreeing with each other. And he believed in certain things that were really important to keep the country all together. Just like if you, Cece, disagree with your sister, you're not allowed to leave our family. That's not allowed. You have to work it out. You have to figure things out together. And that's what Abraham Lincoln believed. And when he was president, he had to help the country do that. So, Abraham Lincoln and his memorial, favorite place in Washington, D.C. Hey girls, I am still in Washington, D.C., and behind me, if you see that big building, we saw that in some of the other videos, that is the Capitol building, right? So remember, Washington, D.C. is the capital of the United States, and that is the building that's called the U.S. Capitol building. Now, I told you before how there is a person called the President of the United States, and there's certain decisions that only the President of the United States can make. But he's not the only leader of the United States. There's also a thing called Congress. And that is a bunch of people, 500 people, over 500 people that are also leaders, and they too have certain powers to make decisions. And they work in that building. See it there? In the Capitol building. We'll talk more about that some other time. But just wanted to show you that big round dome. It's called the US Capitol, and it's where a bunch of other leaders called the Congress make decisions. Alrighty. So, I am back again at the Capitol building. This is another building where leaders from our country go and make decisions. Now, we talked about how the President of the United States makes some decisions, but actually, a lot of the decisions, if not maybe most of the decisions, are made by a lot of people that work in there. They're called Congress people, all right? They're men and women that are elected they are chosen by people from each of the states. And so they all work in there, they get together and they talk. Sometimes they fight, but they're meant to try to come up with a solution to different problems and to make it, to make the rules for our country. They're called laws. Do you know what laws are? Right? They're the things, you've heard of maybe someone breaking the law and they might have to go to jail. Well, the laws are actually, for the whole country, are made in that building by Congress people. So, that's a very, very, very important building in our country. And lots of important things happen there. Lots of big ideas. They create new ways to make it that we can have jobs. They make it so that we can be able to make our own choices. They make laws that protect us, right, from bad guys or from people that are just not nice. So all those types of things are meant to happen in that building. So there you go. That's the U.S. Capitol, home of Congress. And that is a group of Congress people that come together to make laws and rules. I know it can be really confusing, but someday, you too could be working there or working in that other building down the way, that big house, right? What color house was it? The White House. That's right. One day it could be you. I believe it. You just have to work really hard, you have to study hard, and you have to care about people a lot, okay? I love you, girls. And one more thing. The reason why Daddy came here to Washington, D.C. wasn't just to go visit all of these fun buildings and monuments and memorials, but it was actually because I went to go talk to people that work in that building, the Congress people. Because at Daddy's work, we need them to make decisions that will allow us to help people around the world. Remember when Daddy went to Indonesia or Cambodia, and we talked about how Daddy's work is about helping people that that are poor or that have a hard time in life? Well, we need that group of people to make decisions that allow us to do that. And so I went to go talk to our Congress people and say, hey, don't we want to help people? Don't we want to be nice to people around the world? That's what we went to talk about. And so there you go. That's why I'm here. Hey, the tour of Washington, D.C. continues. And this time, I am in front of the Supreme Court building. Now, what is the Supreme Court? So, we talked about how in the Capitol building, the Congress chooses the different laws and rules of our country, right? There's the top of the Capitol building over there. You see the top right over there. Oh, where am I? There. Woo! That thing right there is the top of the Capitol building. Right across the street here is the Supreme Court building. So the Capitol makes the rules, right? But then sometimes people break the rules, or sometimes we made rules and we actually don't know if we understand the rules all the way, right? So that's what this building is meant for. They hear what's called cases. Now, let's take a little, this is pretend, okay? Let's say the Vaccaro boys, right? The Vaccaro boys, Noah and Cannon, they're always kind of fighting with each other, right? Well, say Noah says that Cannon took his toy. They usually go to their mom or their dad and Noah would say, hey, Cannon did something wrong. And they might say, how do you know? Tell me what type of proof you have. And the mom or the dad, the parents, will sort of make a decision about who was in the right and who was in the wrong and what the punishment might be. That's called a case. That happens for really big things like stealing or just laws that we don't know how to understand them. And so sometimes those cases in regular life, they usually are decided on in the places where they happen or the places where we live, right? So we have a court that hears those types of cases in Phoenix, Arizona. But sometimes they're too big. Sometimes they're really important, and actually we need to have a lot more time to think about what is the right decision. What does it really mean when this law says that we should have the freedom to say what we want or worship what we want? Those are laws that are in our country, and they're really about big ideas and ideals, okay? And that's what they do in there. And it's a very important place. Again, another place that you, both of you, could work in there if you work really hard, you study really hard, and you care for people really well. So there you go. Doesn't that building look important? My goodness, all those big pillars and stuff. And the words that are said, there's a few words right here. I don't know if you can see that. And Cece, I don't know if you can read that. It says, equal justice under the law. Do you know what that means? That means that everyone, even if you are young or old, if you have a lot of money or only a little bit of money, or if you have blonde hair or black hair or light skin or dark skin, we all should be treated the same, equally, right? Don't you think that sounds fair? That's what justice is. It's fairness. You know, Mommy likes to talk a lot about justice too, so you can ask her about justice. Love you girls. I think you guys are amazing, and I think that if you wanted to, you could work here, or over there, or in that big white house, because you guys are amazing like that. I love you. Hey girls, I am at the end of my time in Washington, D.C. I am about to go on my airplane and fly back to Phoenix, Arizona. I have also taken trains and buses and bicycles during this trip. I have used all the forms of transportation during this trip. And it's crazy, but I haven't even shown you all the things I wanted to show you about Washington, D.C. There's plenty of other things that I wanted to show you, other memorials and monuments and museums, like the Jefferson Memorial, which is named after a president, or the Martin Luther King Memorial, that is after a famous pastor. There's lots of fun museums, but I didn't have enough time this time. So one of two things can happen. First, I might come back again and I'll be able to share with you a little bit more about Washington, D.C. Or someday you can jump on an airplane with me, and maybe someday we'll come here together, all together as a family, and you'll be able to learn and see it for yourself. Would you want that? Okay, well, I am on my way home. I won't see you before bedtime, but I will see you in the morning. And I love you guys so much. See you soon.